Now Paddy handed in this paragraph, good on you Paddy, and he's really responded quite well to how we write a paragraph explaining who's responsible for the deaths of Romeo and Juliet. The topic sentence is the first sentence in the paragraph, and cast your minds back and have a think about what the purpose of that topic sentence is. The topic sentence, hopefully you remembered, is to tell us the purpose of this paragraph, and in this case he needed to explain who was responsible for the deaths. And it's very, very clear in this topic sentence that it's Lord Capulet that Patrick thinks is responsible for the deaths. Well done, Paddy. And what we would be expecting to see from the rest of this paragraph is some explanation and of how he is responsible, and some examples of this in the text. So here's the topic sentence, and let's look for these examples and explanations now. This is because he was trying to force Juliet into marrying Paris. So there's an explanation. Okay, so that's great. This made Juliet depressed, so he's explaining this further, and suicidal. So she went to Friar Lawrence for help and said if he didn't help her, she would kill herself in front of him. So there are more explanations happening here. This is great. This forced Friar Lawrence into giving her the potion. This is why I don't think Friar Lawrence is responsible for her death, because he was blackmailed into giving away the potion. Okay, so what Paddy's tried to do here is actually give some more explanation. And here, he's now got, if I go here, we've now got the example. So what Paddy says here, an example of Lord Capulet forcing her to marry him was when he abused her and pushed her around. This is what made her scared and suicidal. He says, and you be mine, I'll give you to my friend, and you be not hang, beg, starve, die on the streets. This means that if Juliet refuses to marry us, Lord Capulet will disown her. Great. So he's actually put in the example here as well. So that's really cool. That's what we're expecting to see in this sort of paragraph that we're putting together. So that's the structure of the paragraph. We have the topic sentence, we'd have the explanation, and the example. In an essay, we would have the last section, which is the link to the essay topic, but and the contention. But in this case, we don't have an essay topic. We're just writing a paragraph, so we don't have that. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like you to go back and have a look at your text, your paragraph, and see whether you actually can highlight the topic sentence and you've made it really clear. If it's not clear, I'd like you to actually try and work on it to make it simple, one simple sentence, make it nice and clear. Then I want you to try and explain your choice and to find an example from the text which reinforces it. That's what I'd like you to do now. So please stop the recording and now do that, and I'll come back and put the recording on again once you've coded your text. Don't worry if you have green and then blue and green and blue, that's fine. Just make sure that you've highlighted the explanations and the examples in green and then blue. You'll notice now in this section here, I've put Paddy's paragraph here, and over here I've grabbed some text from the play. And if I look at Paddy's text, I can see here, for example, in the explanation, this is because he was trying to force Juliet into marrying Paris. This made Juliet depressed and suicidal, so she went to Friar Lawrence for help and said if he didn't kill her, she would kill herself in front of him. Here we could put in an example. So we could make this a bit blue, and we could put the example from the text in here, and we could say, if I go over here, or bid me go into a new made grave. So I could try and weave that into this part of the text. This dressed and he didn't help her to, so she'd didn't help her. She'd prefer to go into. She'd to go into and what have we said? A new made grave. And if I go here, we can say I prefer to go into a new made grave. That's come from the text. That hasn't, sorry, so we keep that as green. And we can quote that. So we'd have to put it in, and it's coming from the text. If you prefer to, and probably we need to say die to explain that. And go into a new made grave. And then we've got a bit of an example of the text. Now, in this bit here, Patrick's actually talked about why Friar Lawrence is not responsible. That's not related here. You don't need to justify that, Paddy, because in fact you've said Lord Capulet's responsible. So he's the one that we're actually really interested in. Okay, so we could just take that bit out. In fact, rather than taking it out, what I'll do is, oh no, I'll take it out because it's not really quite as relevant as we wanted. And here we have an example of Lord Capulet forcing Juliet, is her, to marry him was when he abused her and pushed her around. This is what made her scared and suicidal. He says blah, blah, blah. So why don't we just put this here so that it actually makes sense. This was because he was trying to force Juliet to marry him. There's the example of that. This made Juliet depressed and suicidal, and he'd prefer to go into a new made grave. So what we've done then is join the two up. You don't need to do that, but in terms of it just supports what's happening here and makes a really, really strong paragraph. So that would now look, as a paragraph, a little bit like this. So I'm going to pull it together, and we've changed Paddy's paragraph, not very much, because he wrote it very well in the first place, and we now have a magnificent paragraph from Patrick on who is responsible for the text. Thanks, Paddy. So now what I'd like you to do is to go back to your own paragraph and see whether, when you've made a statement, this was because he was Lord Capulet was trying to force Juliet into marrying Paris, you can find the proof of that in the text. And, or in your own, where you make a statement like this, you can actually find an example in this section here which will support what you've said. Please go back and do that. Make some adjustments. You will need to go back to the text and use the summaries to help you so that you can find the right section. Good luck, and I'll look forward to seeing your previewed paragraphs.